This video is sponsored by OWC. This is the Philips Hue Play HDMI sync box, which is a mouthful and most likely going to be referred to as the sync box from here on out. It's something that longtime Philips Hue users like myself have been clamoring for, an easy way to sync your lights with the content that's being displayed on your TV. Now I say easy because technically there was a way to achieve this beforehand, but it was not as simple as just plugging in your device to the back of the box and then downloading the app on your phone and just going from there. So in this video, we're gonna go over exactly that, what the sync box can do for you and whether or not it's worth the higher price tag. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video. Now the sync box isn't really anything special to look at. It's just a tiny black box that has 4 HDMI ports for your media devices that you can plug into the back of. So you can plug in your Apple TV 4K, an Xbox One X, etc. Now the current setup that I tested out was exactly that. My Apple TV 4K and an Xbox One X plugged directly into the Hue sync box. And then the HDMI out port, which is the 5th and final looking HDMI port, I plugged that into the back of my TV. I also have a soundbar plugged into the TV's dedicated HDMI ARC port and not the Hue sync box. I've heard that you probably shouldn't do that, so it might seem obvious, but I'd probably refrain from plugging your soundbar into the sync box. The rest of the setup was also just super simple. I just downloaded the dedicated Hue Sync application on my iPhone, and then I ran through the steps on the device. You'll go through connecting your Hue Sync box and getting it all synced up with your Hue bridge, and then you'll create dedicated entertainment areas in your space if you haven't already created them in the past. In order for your Hue Sync to know which lights you want the device to control. And then you'll place those lights in the corresponding areas that you have around your setup that's shown on the picture. It's important to note that the lights that are being used with the sync box can not be controlled via the regular Hue app while you're actually syncing with the sync box. Speaking of lights, for my setup, I'm using 2 Hue Play bars, which are these small LED bars that flank the left and right side of my TV. And then I have a Philips Hue light strip attached directly to the back panel of my TV. And then I also have a few Philips sign LED bars that would be perfect for the Hue Sync depending on the placement. But for me, I just wanted the lights that were right next to the TV, and my signs are actually one behind the couch and one off to the left. And I found that to just be a little bit too distracting, or at least the one off to the left. Maybe the one behind me would be cool, but I really didn't notice that one too much. So I created a separate area with just those 3 lights that I talked about, the light strip and the 2 play bars. After everything's up and running on the app, you'll see a few different modes on the sync app to change between, like video, music, and gaming modes. And then you'll find different light intensity options like subtle, moderate, high, and I believe it's either extreme or intense, one of the two. A brightness slider, and then the ability to switch to different HDMI inputs, and then the start stop sync button. That's really it. It's a very simple user interface. Honestly, I thought the Hue Sync was going to be kind of distracting for certain scenarios, or while I was watching TV, that there'd be a bunch of different lights going on and off. But that really wasn't always the case. It's actually kind of an awesome addition to my entertainment center. The Hue Sync detects color and brightness shifts with the content that's on the screen, and then does an incredible job of passing the different colors and lights to each corresponding area, depending on how your lights are set up in the location of those colors on the screen. So for example, if the bottom left and right have red in the frame of your TV, your corresponding lights, whatever's closer to that area, will actually turn red, and it'll change constantly depending on what's reflected on the TV. Now, when watching movies, I kept the mode on video and usually left the intensity on moderate, and I would sometimes mess around with high, but I found that the high setting was a little bit too much flashing. So if I were you, I'd probably keep things at subtle or moderate, but I really wouldn't go too high from that. I think that's the perfect amount of light and sort of the amount of shifting and changing levels of brightness. I think that's perfect. Honestly, as far as the different modes go, video, music, and game, I really couldn't tell the difference between all 3. But some have noticed that there might be differences in colors, but again, I did not notice a difference at all. The Hue Sync box works really well with movies that have a lot of color to them. And so I found that a lot of animated movies, which have a lot of color to it, really does well with the sync box and really makes it a much better experience. I've even tested some intense scenes like in Star Wars. There's a lot of flashing lights going on in this particular scene, a lot of action, and I had the setting on, I believe I switched between moderate and high, and you can tell there was a lot of lights going back and forth, and it might be distracting for a lot of people. So I would definitely keep those high intensity scenes at subtle or moderate, but I really, again, just for at all times, I would keep mine down there. But if you like high for the most part, you might not like it during those intense scenes, so it might just be worth taking it down. The same applies for gaming as well. I really didn't do a whole lot of gaming when I tested this out. I just don't play a lot of games, but when I did, I really enjoyed that splash of color around the setup. And like when watching movies and TV shows, and as I've been preaching throughout, I've kept the intensity and the brightness level at a minimum in order just to be a more subtle splash rather than lights having a strobe effect the entire time I'm playing a game. The Sync Box is a really, really cool product and definitely helps you immerse yourself in what you're watching or playing. And while I personally don't think it's too distracting, especially if you keep the intensity levels down, I can see why some might think that it would be. Darker scenes tend to actually turn off a lot of the lights or turn them down so low that when a scene brightens back up again, it's basically like a flash, and that could be kind of annoying. For example, when I was watching Servant the other day, that show is just dark all around, and so when a bright scene actually happened, it would kind of flash, and I don't know, it really took it away and it was kind of annoying. But you can adjust the minimum brightness setting inside of the app, which takes care of that issue so that your lights aren't actually turning off when the scenes are really dark. Overall, I love the Sync Box. Yes, it's expensive at $229. It's definitely on the pricier side, but smart lighting in general is pretty pricey. But if you really want to take your media setup to the next level, I think that this would be a really cool companion to the rest of the Hue lights, especially if you have the light strip, some color light bulbs, play bars, etc. I think it could be a really cool investment, and it really adds to what you're watching on screen. So what are your thoughts on the Philips Hue Play HDMI Sync Box? Again, that's a mouthful, but I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, before we end today's video, I want to give you more information about today's sponsor, OWC. OWC offers a wide range of products for your Mac, like internal hard drives, SSDs, memory, Thunderbolt 3 docks, and even storage dock combinations, like this new Mercury Elite Pro dock that features up to 28 terabytes of data storage capacity, a built-in SD card reader on the front, which I absolutely love, and then more ports on the back, like dual USB Type-A and USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports, a display port, and more. The Mercury Elite supports standard 2.5 or 3.5 SSD or regular hard drive solutions with a plethora of RAID options that best fits your workflow. This is a perfect connectivity all-in-one storage solution for you new MacBook Pro owners out there who are looking to add to your docked workstation. For more information about this product, or if you want to see what else OWC has to offer, click the link in the description down below. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.